So after switching away from Apple, I hoped that the Ultrahuman Ring Air would replace my Apple Watch for fitness tracking. And at first I was super excited to try it out, but then about a month in, I was pretty much ready to give up on it. However, after using it now for about 6 months straight, my perspective has come pretty much a full 180. So let me explain why. So like I said, about 6 months ago, I switched from iPhone after 10 years to Android. And part of that process was leaving my Apple Watch behind, which I absolutely loved, and I switched to a Google Pixel Watch 3. And honestly, I wasn't that impressed. I found the health tracking features not as good as the Apple Watch, and so Ultrahuman actually offered to send me their Ring Air to test out. And I've been wanting to try a smart ring for a while, and so I was really actually excited to test it out. And when I got it, I was initially really impressed. I think it looks great. I got a really good fit, and I finally really do understand the huge appeal of using a ring for health tracking as opposed to a watch. It's just so much more compact than a watch. The results I was getting initially in terms of accuracy were really good. Heart rate monitoring, temperature tracking was all really good. I did find that the sleep tracking seemed to overestimate my sleep, and so I was having to update that from time to time. But overall, I was really enjoying it. I'm also a really big fan of the fact that there's no subscription. It's just a one-off purchase if you do buy it. And the Ultrahuman app itself, I find really good. I quite like the layout, and you've got lots of data to look through. And so overall, I was really excited and really impressed. However, about a month into testing it out, a few things started to come up that started to put me off a little bit. So the first thing was that I noticed that I was not checking the Ultrahuman app as regularly as I did in the first few weeks. And in thinking about why, I think I realized it was just because I didn't find anything in the Ultrahuman app that interesting to look at, to be honest. Now for context, what I was comparing it to was previously when I was using my Apple Watch, I used an app called Athletic, and this kind of conglomerated all of my different health metrics and my workouts and everything into a single fitness score. And I really enjoyed tracking my fitness score because it felt like motivation to keep coming back to the gym, and I would check it every day to see if my fitness score had gone up or down. However, in the Ultrahuman app, there's no kind of overall score that it gives you to tell you what your fitness level is, for example. And so I just found over time that I just didn't really have any reason to open the app other than kind of just general interest. So that was kind of my first red flag, because again, I'd gone in with the mindset of expecting the Ring to replace my Apple Watch, particularly for fitness tracking. That was kind of the main thing that I really wanted it to do. The other kind of annoying thing was that I really couldn't wear it while lifting weights because it was going to get scratched, it might get damaged. It's tough, but it's not quite that tough. And also just gets in the way, feels uncomfortable. And so I'd end up just taking it off while doing workouts and then still tracking my workouts on my watch. Now, if that was the only two things, I probably would have been okay to keep using it, but I started to run into some technical problems. So I did have a bit of a battery drain issue after a firmware update where the battery basically dissipated in less than 24 hours. Now, normally I'll get a solid 4, maybe 5 days out of the Ring. So this was pretty frustrating. Thankfully, a firmware update fixed this immediately. So that was all good. However, the next firmware update that came through actually completely bricked my first Ring, which I now have here, just sitting on my desk. So that was pretty annoying. I contacted the Ultrahuman support team and they really promptly sent me out the replacement Ring. So that was positive, but it was quite frustrating. The next thing that happened was about a week later, you wouldn't believe, but my second Ring got bricked trying to update the firmware. Once again, they really promptly sent me out a replacement Ring. And so this is now the third Ring I'm on. Now, the good news is that for the past 3 or 4 months that I've been using this one, I've had no issues. However, there also haven't been any firmware updates. So I'm feeling a little bit nervous about updating my firmware the next time one gets sent through. But on the upside, at least their support is pretty prompt. Now, honestly, by the time I received the third Ring, I was almost ready to completely give up on it. And I actually recorded a review talking about how I just wasn't a fan. However, I ended up sitting on the review for about a month, and in that time I kept wearing the Ring and my perspective started to change a little bit. And I think the first thing that really led to a change in perspective was wearing it to track my sleep. So for the past probably 4 years at least, I've been wearing a watch to bed to track my sleep, and I've gotten used to it, and so it hasn't really bothered me. However, I started to every now and then just leave my watch off and only track my sleep using the Ring. And honestly, this is where I really started to appreciate the form factor, because it really is a lot less cumbersome and a lot more comfortable than wearing a watch to bed. And so now pretty much every night I'll leave my watch off and just wear the ring to track my sleep. And I'm really happy with the results. They're really accurate. And I think this kind of started to make me think a bit more broadly about what the actual ring is for. I think I went into it with the perspective that it was going to be a fitness tracker, that it was going to motivate me to stay fit and go to the gym more regularly. But I think what it's really trying to do is to track my overall health metrics. And what I started to notice was that it actually was motivating me to be healthy, but in a more general and holistic sense. So I think previously with the Athletic app and my Apple Watch, it was really motivating me to go to the gym on a regular basis and to stay fit. But I think what the Ultra Human does in a kind of more subtle and background kind of way for me, it actually motivates me to eat healthier, to get enough sleep, and to stay fit. And so while it maybe isn't as gamified as something like Athletic, I actually personally find it still really motivating. I'll probably check it every second day, something like that. And there's a few things in the app that I really like to look at. One is my ultra age. So this is kind of giving me an estimate of how much I'm aging. It's currently telling me that I'm aging a bit faster than my chronological age. So that's a good motivator to stay fit and healthy. I also like looking at my individual markers. So I find it interesting to track my resting heart rate. And I've definitely noticed this come down as I've gotten fitter. Also like the cardio age feature. Again, I think this motivates me to look after my health. I think this one more than any probably motivates me to keep up with my fitness. But then of course you've also got things like heart rate variability and your VO2 max. So again, it gives you kind of an overall idea of where your fitness is at, and you can track it over time. So you've got an idea of how much you're improving. I also really like that it actually seems to pull in data from my workouts. So again, I still use my Pixel Watch to track my workouts at the gym, and the Ultra Human app pulls in this data and seems to take it into account, which I really appreciate. So in summary, I don't think it's a replacement for a smartwatch, particularly if you're doing a lot of fitness tracking. But if you're looking for something that's going to complement your overall kind of health and well-being attempts, then I actually do quite like the Ultra Human Ring. Would I personally recommend it? Honestly, I think if you're looking for something that's going to give you a general overall holistic sense of your health, then I think this is a good choice. I think especially if you're looking for something that doesn't have a subscription, I would be really keen to compare it with the Oura Ring, which is kind of, in my understanding, the main competitor to Ultra Human, but the Oura Ring is on a subscription model, whereas you can buy the Ultra Human outright. Plus, Ultra Human seems to be developing other products that you can use for health tracking. Like they've just released a device that tracks different metrics in your home. So things like temperature and air quality, stuff like that. And all that data works together in the app in conjunction with the ring. So if you're kind of looking for an ecosystem of general health tracking, then Ultra Human might be worth looking at. I think if you're specifically looking for a fitness tracker, then the Ultra Human Ring is not going to be that. And a big part of that is because it's really hard to wear, especially if you're doing workouts. Maybe for stuff like running, it's going to be a more feasible option for fitness tracking, but in my experience is a better overall health tracking tool. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you have an Ultra Human Ring? Have you had any of the issues that I've experienced, or are you looking to buy one? If you are interested, there's a link in the description with the discount. This review is completely unsponsored and my honest thoughts, but if you do use the link, it'll help support my channel. Otherwise, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on heaps of cool tech, then check out this video right here.